All right, Nikki Nash, welcome to the Happy Hustle podcast, my friend. I am super excited to connect.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, this is gonna be a good one. Listen, you and I are like soul brother and sister. I feel like. I mean, as soon as we met online, I was like, all right, this girl gets it. And you're a rock star. I mean, you're a Hay House author. You're a motivational speaker. You're the creator of Market Your Genius. I don't know why I say creator, but creator. A training and development brand on a mission to equip entrepreneurs with the tools and resources they need to share and profit from their message. I mean, you do all these awesome things, and you're the host of the Market Your Genius podcast, which is super cool. I'm going to be a guest on soon. I'm excited about that. But let's talk about something interesting, Nikki, about yourself that not too many people know.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people don't know that I was an incredibly shy child, like
Huh.
incredibly shy, to the point where if we were at, let's say, a restaurant like McDonald's or something, I'll use as an example as a kid, my dad would be like, tell the person what you want to order. And I would tell my dad what I wanted to order and wouldn't speak to the actual person
Mm,
giving or taking my order, which is ironic since I have a podcast and I do videos all the time, but I just would not
yeah.
speak to people.
That is very interesting. Yeah. Now, especially because you're actually a speaker, like you get paid to speak. It's a little ironic. But, I find a lot of entrepreneurs out there who do have this public facing persona actually are, oftentimes shy or reserved or, more intrinsic in their thought process and not as externally charismatic, like only when they have to be, I don't know, something to think about. Interesting that was you too. So
Yeah. I am definitely on top of I was shy, I'm an introvert
yeah,
and so I get my soul people who just want to be alone a little bit sometimes.
heard that. Hey, that's why I live in the middle of nowhere, Montana. I like, I like people, yes, but I like nature more. So that's me. Well, let's dive in. I like to start things off with a bang. So I mean, you have this whole brand and business on marketing your genius. First and foremost, do you have a way for the happy hustlers to actually determine what is their genius to market to?
Yes. So it's a process that probably takes people more time than expected, but it's super simple. And I think when it comes to marketing your genius, it all starts with figuring out a combination of what you're naturally good at. And sometimes those qualities may not be things that you necessarily sell directly, but it could be what people buy. So, for example, right when I started my business, I had a lot of people tell me, you have great energy. And it was something that I heard like on a daily basis. And at the beginning, I would go, what the heck does that mean? I didn't
Yeah.
understand what it meant. I'm still not entirely sure if I can put it to words, but I at least get it now.
Yep.
And it's not like I sell energy to people, but I market, I lean into that strength or that thing that attracts people to me on a daily basis. And so I think it's really getting aligned on what you're naturally good at, what brings you joy, what you've worked really hard to become great at that you
Mm,
enjoy, because you
mm.
may have skills that you've worked hard to get, but you maybe don't enjoy what you used to do, but you can transfer them to something else. So I think the first step in marketing your genius is to figure out what your genius is. And
Yep.
that just is a process of what brings me joy, what am I really good at, what are my natural gifts, and where is their market need. And when you can bring all of those things together, you've got some magic that you can market.
Yeah, I love that. I love that process. What are you uniquely good at right now? Because we're all uniquely good at something, and then taking it, what do you actually enjoy doing? Because why do something you don't enjoy? Like a lot of people sacrifice, you know, everything, their happiness, their family, their faith, their fitness for what? For something that doesn't even fulfill them, and if that's you out there listening, listen to Nikki right now and figure out what is your actual genius that you enjoy and want to share, and where's the market need. And I always like to think about this too. What are you actually qualified to talk about? Like what did you where did you earn some stripes? You know, what have you persevered past? What adversity have you overcome that then you can help someone? Because right, Nikki, listen, we're uniquely positioned to help those who are in our past shoes, right? So what are you uniquely qualified to help someone go through and get the result for? So I love that that discovery process. Now, Nikki, let me ask this, and I really I have my own perspective on this. However, what is your take on the biggest marketing mistake that you see time and time again?
Ooh, this is a good question. This gets me excited. I would say the biggest marketing mistake I see people make is trying to copy somebody else's marketing.
Mm,
Because just because something worked for somebody else, even if they are in the same exact business, does not mean that it's going to work for you. And I think so often people go, wow, well, that message worked, or that creative worked, or that business model to a T worked. I'm going to offer the same exact things and do it the same exact way. And then when it doesn't work, people are like, what the heck? And
yeah.
it's because it's just like, it's the biggest mistake I see people make is copying others. And if I can give a second, like probably a
Yeah.
tie for the biggest mistake, it's quitting too soon. So I
Mm.
think too often people go, oh, well, I did one webinar and that didn't work. So webinars don't work for me and I'm never doing another webinar. It's like, okay, well, why did that one webinar not work? Did you track anything to know what the numbers are and what worked and what didn't? So I would say that's definitely the top two biggest marketing mistakes I see people make.
So true. And I think the copycat syndrome where people just say, oh my goodness, this person did a free plus shipping book funnel. I have to do a free plus shipping book funnel. Or hey, this person launched a new challenge. Man, why didn't I think of that? I should do challenges, It's like you can be creative, you can differentiate yourself. And I even have to do this too. Like I think about stuff and I see people's success. I'm like, oh, I should do webinars, like evergreen webinars. That's a good idea. Ooh, and I'm like, oh, I need to stay in my lane. I need to stay in my genius and continue to be unique and creative. And I love those two marketing mistakes. Quitting too soon is also like, you know, it's something we could spend a whole interview on talking about, like when to quit, but when to persevere. And most of the time, you should be persevering if you want it bad enough, like if it's a dream of yours. But I do think I always have that analogy or that visual image of that miner who's like inches away from the diamond, but he turns around right before he's inches away, and he's like, one more good swing of that pickaxe and he's breaking through to the diamond, or she. And I really like I live by that in my mind. Anytime I feel a little like, less motivated or whatnot, I'm like, we're gonna get this. We're gonna keep going. So the great points there. Nikki, let's get into your backstory a little bit. I'd like to find out more about you, kind of what was childhood like growing up for Nikki, and kind of lead us up to, college days, and then how'd you get into marketing and business in its entirety?
Yeah, so I grew up in New Jersey, born and raised, and I have two parents that are doctors. And
Oh,
it's funny because people would always ask, oh, are you going to be a doctor when you grow up? And do you like science? And I was the kid who did her sixth grade science project on identifying the best nail polish. And
oh,
I
important
like
stuff.
important stuff. And I remember I did a history project probably that same year on Egypt or Egyptian fashion, and
Mm,
I feel like
equally as
I
important.
equally it's very these are prerequisites to becoming a doctor, you
For
guys.
sure.
And I remember I like took an old Barbie doll that I had because I didn't really play with dolls, but I found one and I cut her hair and dyed it black with face paint and I tried to make her look Egyptian and I made her clothes. So clearly was not going to go down the path of science because I wouldn't even dissect anything in school. I found this smart kid and I was like, "Do you want to be my partner and dissect this? Because I'm not going to do it. I will take
That's
notes. Tell me what
yep.
to write."
Yep. What was your first hustle? I'm curious. What was the first thing you did for money?
Ooh, let's see. The first successful hustle was probably a mother's helper. So I wasn't old enough yet to be a babysitter,
Mm.
but I was old enough to be a mother's helper, which essentially meant the mom was home and had a new baby. So she was there taking care of the baby, but I was old enough to watch like the younger kids that could, walk around and do things like that. So I was a mother's helper and then became a babysitter and a camp counselor, and I was making money through childcare uh, at an early age. I had an unsuccessful business of trying to sell boxes that a woman at a nursing home made that I was volunteering at, and she's like, "I don't know what to do with these boxes." I'm like, "I'm going to sell them." Did not sell one, but I did make money in childcare.
There you go. Hey, you got to get it how you can. I've done a lot of things in exchange for money, most of which I'm not proud of, Nikki. So at least you can look back and say I helped a lot of kids in my day.
Truth, I did it
Oh,
for the kids.
yeah, right. For the kids. So let's talk about how you got into, business and entrepreneurship. I mean, I find, where you're at now, people could look at and say, man, she's got this, Hay House book deal, which I want to get into as well. And, you have this thriving business and this podcast that's booming. But talk to us about how'd you get into business for yourself?
Yeah, I took a windy path, as I would say a lot of people in entrepreneurship probably do. And I wanted to be an actress.
Oh,
And
I can see it.
yeah, thank you. In high school, I acted in plays. I remember I won an award my senior year for acting. And I decided I'm going to go to college, but I want to be an actress. And I would look at backstage magazines and look up auditions, but I wouldn't go. And at the time, I didn't realize how much of life was a mindset game. And I treated every thought that I had as golden, like that's real. And so I had all these fears and disempowering thoughts that stopped me from ever going after acting.
Hmm.
But outside of acting, I loved writing. I wrote poetry as a kid. And so I became an English major. And I thought I was going to be a journalist. So I interned at a TV station and I graduated and I did this program at NYU on book and magazine publishing. And I thought I was going to go into the magazine industry, but being a journalist.
Hmm.
And I met all these really cool people that came to speak at this, I think it was like a 3 month or 6 month kind of program. And I met all these cool people and they were all marketers, the people that I really liked. And so I ended up taking a job at InStyle magazine in the marketing department. And
Oh,
then I
cool.
loved the people that worked there. And next thing I knew, I was in a marketing career that I never intended to go
Huh.
into.
Interesting. Well, I mean, we all kind of like just evolve, and I think everything happens for a reason. So I think you were there for a reason. You vibed with that tribe for a reason, and here you are now stepping to your power, helping others, market their genius. And I love that you equate marketing to dating. Talk to us about what that is, and those similarities and the differences between marketing and dating.
Yes, it's so funny because I actually was on Facebook the other day, and somebody who I'm Facebook friends with wrote this entire post about how people shouldn't be teaching that marketing is like dating. I'm like, is this an attack on me? Like, not. I didn't really feel that way at all, but I got their point, and their point was essentially that too often people spend time in the "I am gonna hope that you like me" phase and never make an offer. And so the
Mm,
whole point of marketing being like dating, and I'll walk through the analogy, but is to think about it as you're trying to find the person that you want to actually propose to or put a ring on it or spend the rest of your life with in like the highest level theory. And so when you think about marketing and growing your business from that standpoint, you have to start by thinking, all right, well, where would this person hang out? And, which in the dating world would be which dating app would I use? Or especially now, since there aren't a lot of parts in, depending on where you live, where you can go out and meet people,
mm,
we're in a
mhm,
pandemic. So it kind of, but in earlier days, it would be which bar or club or whatever is your jam, like where would I go to hang out to meet this person? And
mm,
so you want to think about the same things when it comes to your target audience and to growing your business is where is this person spending their time? How am I going to
mm,
find them? And when you're clear on that, how the heck are you going to capture their attention?
Mm.
because you got to stop them from scrolling, or you want them to swipe. Terrible at this. I guess you want them to swipe right and not left.
I don't know. I've been
I
out the
don't know.
game for over 5 years, Nikki. You're talking to the wrong guy.
Wrong guy, and I like really struggle with online dating, but that's a whole nother story. So, um,
Can we get some happy hustlers to slide in Nikki's DM, please?
but it's essentially you go, okay, how do I capture this person's attention, get their digits, spark that conversation, and ultimately get to the point where you're able to choose whether, or they're able to choose rather, whether they want to work with you or not, and you're able to qualify if they would be a good customer for you or not through this phase of dating. So it could be for some people's businesses, dating could take 3 minutes. For other people's businesses, dating could take 3 months, 6 months, a year, depending on what the heck you're selling. and
Mm-hmm.
and it may be different. On top of it being different in general, like your average, it could be different for each person that you're speaking with. Some people will be, oh my goodness, I've been looking for you, you are the one, put a ring on it, and like after they saw an Instagram post, watched a bunch of your videos, listened to your podcast, and was like, I'm in. And they did all of that in like a 24-hour period. And
Mm.
you may have other people that are like, well, I'm kind of looking for somebody and looking for some help, but I think I'm going to keep struggling and stumbling for a while, and then I'll be ready. And that's totally cool. And so you just want to stay connected to those folks so that when they are ready, they're like, you've had my back this whole time while I was trying to work through it, and so I'm ready.
Yeah,
Put a
it's the
ring on it.
virgin. It's the virgin versus the one night stand, right? I mean, and then you just have, you gotta you gotta treat people differently, and date them differently, And that was a terrible analogy, but yes, I do understand how marketing can be like dating. I like that you broke it down like that. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, and really, what it comes down to is how are you actually going to keep attention and you know build the know like and trust and help them like get the result that they're seeking, right? What's the problem or the pain, and figure out the solution. That's what it comes down to when you're marketing your genius, right? To in the dating sphere. But I like that analogy, and actually haven't heard it like you say it, so that's pretty cool. Let's talk about how to actually get clear on that message, because I know you talk about clarity being an essential point of actually marketing your genius. What would you say to those happy hustlers out there who are like, I'm just not clear on what I want to say, or my message is, maybe in multiple different industries, or the problem I solve isn't just, I'm not sure. What would you say in order to get clear on your message to those people?
Yeah. So what's really cool about messaging is that it's a bit like branding, actually. It's not really decided by you in a vacuum. And so I think so often people, and I've been there, so I get it. You're like, what is my message? I need to get clear on my message. The message needs to come to me so that I could share the message with the world. And people will be like,
Hmm.
yes, that was the exact message I needed to hear. But where it really ends up coming from is in like active listening and implementation. And the more that, if you can just know, hey, I can help solve this problem, and this is the type of person or community that I'm going to solve this problem for, and you can just keep solving their problem and speaking to people, you will realize folks will say the same thing or allude to the same thing. And when you keep hearing your target audience say the same thing over and over again, then you will have a message in there. And oftentimes, if you're trying to figure out, well, what should I call myself? Oftentimes, just ask people who have worked with you, work with people. You'll start discovering your message, and then ask them how they would describe you, what they would call you. And it comes from them. Somebody's going to say something, and you're going to go, that's it. And you
Hmm.
would have never gotten there sitting in a room by yourself with a notebook, hoping that you can come up with the message, because it's not tested or validated by the community that you're trying to serve. It's just you sitting in a vacuum. And so I definitely say, go out there, implement, speak to people, and your message will come. And just have something that's good enough to get out there. It doesn't need to be perfect day one.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, the market will dictate what they really truly want. And I always tell this, to the happy hustlers, like, actually pre-sell. your course or your coaching program or whatever it is before you spend all the time, money, and resources creating it, because you might find out that they don't want it, so you'll waste all that time, aka our most precious commodity, creating. And I've been there, so I'm speaking from experience here, guys. When you spend so much time creating something that not too many people actually want, rather, like Nikki said, go out there, implement, ask, get results for people, ask them what was their favorite part about working with you, and then you'll get clear on your message. Your message will present itself from the market and its needs. So that's a great point there, Nikki. Let's talk about how to actually get people to buy from you and your message, buying your message instead of the competitors out there. Because let's face it, it's getting a little saturated in some of these markets, right? The health and fitness, like online coaches, or even the sales professionals who can teach you how to sell, or the gurus of any industry. It's a competitive world, right? And a lot of people are moving online now because of the pandemic. How do you stand out, and how do you get people to buy from you and not your customers?
Yeah. So I have kind of a three-pronged answer to this that ranges from super woo-woo to not woo-woo at all. So we're going to kind of go
Mm,
through those.
I like
Um,
woo woo.
I like a little woo in my life, and I'll start there with the law of frequency. And the law of frequency is essentially, I'm going to break it down from a standpoint of how I look at it through marketing. Is that there are tons of people out there that could be saying similar things to you, right? And so a lot of people will go, well, how am I going to be different? What's the point? Why should I speak? Things along those lines. But I like to think of the law of frequency like a radio station,
Mm.
where you have your own radio station where your message is going out to certain people. And not everybody has access to that station. Like there are stations where you are in Montana that I don't get here in New Jersey. But when you think of it as
That's
just
probably
a,
true.
yeah, right? But there
A lot of
are,
country out here.
but even if you just think about everybody being on their own radio station all over the place, there are going to be some people that can't hear your station, and then there are going to be people that hear it, love it, can't get enough of it, right? And so there's just a part of you that's just going to innately, energetically attract certain people and repel others just by you being you, right?
Hmm.
And so there's that. And I think that the best way to kind of attract the people that you want to attract and differentiate yourself 9 times out of 10, and I would honestly argue 10 times out of 10, is going to come from you being you and you're on brand all the time. Because not everybody's going to be down with it. There are going to be people that don't like that I call everybody lovey, and that I can be a little woo as much as I love numbers and math, and hate my dating analogy. That's cool. They won't listen to me, but the people who are going to listen to me are going to go, wow, this was amazing. I implemented this. It changed my life. And then
Mm.
there's going to be somebody else that helps the folks that aren't down with what I'm throwing out. And that's cool. Right. So you want to start. That's why I like to start from the woo, is just because it's part mindset and part universal law, where it's just realize there are people out there that are going to be attracted to you no matter what. I think of it, you have using it on a different analogy, if we can use dating. You go out, two friends will see the same person and have drastically different feelings about that person, and there's like, it's not like the person did anything differently. It's like one friend may be attracted to them, the other person may not. That's cool, right? So there's that. Then I'm going to go all the way to the other end of things. And there are tactics that you can use to differentiate yourself or to have folks choose you over others. And so that's why oftentimes you'll see folks offer special bonuses or special, limited time offers, or things that can inspire people to
Hmm.
take action now. Or sometimes it's price, or those certain things may help somebody who's on the fence between two places go, oh, well, this person offers more bonuses, even if it's a little bit more expensive. I really like these special bonuses, or they offer a little bit more one-on-one time, or they offer, free shipping. It could be a lot of things, but those are some tactical things that you can do to differentiate yourself. There's the woo, there's the tactical, and then I would say somewhere in the middle is just really figure out, and this goes back to something I said earlier, why people are buying from you in the first place, and double down on it. And
Mm,
so when you have those customers, ask your customers, why did you choose us over somebody else or anybody else? What did you love about us? What and use their words to help express why people should choose you over somebody else. Or another way to look at it, if you don't have clients and customers yet, look at your competitors, look at all of their negative reviews, look at all the people who are unhappy, figure out why people are unhappy, and see if you can address that problem in yours and say, hey, we're always gonna offer free shipping. I don't know, I'm making this up. Or we'll like, if the
yeah.
product doesn't get there in time, we will give you your money back and you can keep the product. Like look at other people's complaints and then offer some sort of guarantee to the contrary that they don't offer, and that'll differentiate you as well.
Yeah, yeah, those were great points. I mean, I love that you said the law of frequency because I really do believe everyone is specifically designed to share their message with certain people, and people can only hear your message from you. So you have to realize that you do have a message worth sharing and you got to share it.
Yeah.
And then I like that you talked about the incentives, creating bonuses or one-time offers or, upsells, but framing your product or service in a way that really does inspire action and creates that ethical scarcity and urgency, I think is a really key part in sales of any sort. And then you mentioned, attracting your dream customers. And I want to talk about that in particular and extract a little more from you there. How do you attract your dream customers? I mean, obviously be by being uniquely you, that's going to bring in your tribe of people. But what would you say is some of the or maybe just one of the best ways besides being uniquely you that you found to really, you know, get your dream customers in your pipeline?
Yeah. So when it comes to getting in front of people, I usually say there's three ways. I call it OPP because I like music references,
Yeah.
and that stands for organic, paid, and partner. And so usually you're doing things where you are organically, you're out there, you're posting on your own social media channels. Maybe you're happy hustling and asking friends and folks to share what you're already posting so that it gets in front of more people. And then you're kind of combining that with the law of frequency where you're just trying to get your message out to more people, but you're doing it through word of mouth or through social posting or through different methods that would be considered more organic, where somebody just, oh, I stumbled upon you, sort of a thing.
Mhm.
Then you can also use paid, where you are running ads or you're sponsoring an event or you're doing something where you're exchanging money for the audience and you're saying, hey, I want to get in front of these folks and kind of amplify the message that I have out there. And then the third way would be partnerships. And that could be finding people who already have that audience. Maybe you guys come up with a strategic partnership. Maybe they say, hey, come speak to my community at my event or on my podcast or something along those lines. And you can figure out a way to partner with someone who already has the audience where you add value by sharing your message, and then they have content or they have something of value on their end as well. And you can do all three of these, you can do one, but what I tell most people is to choose one and go all in and really learn it and get it to a point where it works, and then you can add on others. And
Mm.
so, because especially if you're a small team or you're a person of one, if you're trying to do all of the things at once,
Yeah. It's too much.
yeah, it's too much. Do less, do it better. Like
Oh,
that's the thing there. Yeah.
love that. I mean, those are great points. OPP, you gotta stick to one, perfect it, or at least get it to a point where it's generating positive ROI. Like if you're gonna go organic, crush organic. Create, streams of leads organically. If you're going to do paid, all right, figure out a way that, $10 in equals $20 out. That's how you can actually scale your paid reach. Or if you're going to do partnerships, figure out a good affiliate program that really can add value to others and to really monetize, their reach and help them by making it easy for them to say yes to a partnership, make it a good deal for them, like find a win-win, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, those are great. I like the OPP a lot. So, Nikki, I like to ask all my guests this, and it's a couple different questions in multiple disciplines. This is basically where I get to, extract some wisdom from you in in a couple arrays of life. I have the 10 alignments of being a happy hustler. We break the life down in these 10 alignments. You know these better than most because you're part of the Happy Hustle podcast and mastermind, which I love having you in. Um, but let's talk about a happy hustle hack for health, something that you actually use to stay, cognitively sharp and mentally strong, but also physically as well. What is a happy hustle hack for your health that you could share?
Yeah, so something that I've been doing that I discovered, I would say approximately 235 days or so, give or take, is intermittent fasting. But more specifically, I use an app called Zero. And the reason
Hmm.
why I started intermittent fasting was not to lose weight or anything along those lines, though I do hear that it works for some people for that way. But I wanted to change my mindset around food and my relationship with food. And I wanted to prove to myself that if I didn't eat uh, for a certain period of time, it wouldn't be the end of the world. I wouldn't be like, hangry all the time or something along those lines. And what I discovered and why this is a hack, I guess you can say, for folks is that in fasting, doing intermittent fasting for me, I found that after a period of this is terrible, initially, I found that I was clearer. I wasn't as hungry all the time. I found that I really was able to identify which foods made me feel more energized and which foods left me sluggish because I wasn't eating all the time. And so I'm like, oh, this food really needs to do something for me. It really needs to sustain me. And so it really helped me from a mindset shift and from a food choice shift, which has left me being a happy, healthier, more productive person.
Yeah, love that. I like that you do intermittent fasting, and it's cool that you have that app that helps you track it. So, very cool. What is a happy hustle hack for money? I'm sure you made a bunch. I'm sure you lost a bunch. What is a happy hustle hack that you use for money?
Ah, I don't even know if what I'm about to say. I'm doing this like what comes to my mind first. I don't know if this is a hack so much as a life lesson
Yeah, we like
around
those.
money. But my dad told me this about gambling, and he said, when you go to a casino, because I was going to a casino with friends, he said, think about how much money you'd be willing to spend for a night out with friends, and that's how much. Like, don't lose more than that. And I started thinking about that in other aspects of life when I'm making decisions, because so often when people make investments, they're like, this has to work. I have to make all of my money back. And it's like, well, how much would you be willing to spend to learn something or to fail at something over and
Mm,
over again, but get a lot of information out? And then that's
mm,
how I make buying decisions. It's like, am I willing to risk losing this for the reward of having, it multiply my revenue or things along those lines. And so when you are not willing to lose any of it and it has to work, then it might not be a good energetic time for you to make such an investment because you might not be in the right space for it.
yeah, it's a great point. I like that analogy. And you have to think about, you know, every dollar you spend is essentially either going to add value to your life or take it away. It's going to have a positive effect or a negative effect. It could be invested wisely or it could be spent stupidly. So just look at money like that. Great hack there. Let's talk about spirituality. Do you have a happy hustle hack? Maybe not one to one God or another, but to a way to get still and present. Do you have a happy hustle hack regarding spirituality that you can share?
So I, um, really quickly, I'm going to share this and then it'll make sense why I do this hack. I used to really struggle with meditating,
Mm.
not so much because there was anything wrong with the way I was meditating, but my expectations around meditation were ridiculously high. Like, I apparently thought I was supposed to be a monk at monk level
You're supposed to
meditation
levitate, Nikki.
skills. Yeah, like I'm like, why am I not levitating? Why is my brain still on? Like,
Yeah.
what is happening, right? And so what I started realizing is that it's like going to the gym. You see somebody lifting heavy weights. They didn't just wake up one day and lift up heavy weights. They trained and worked at it consistently. So my hack now for anybody who is challenged with meditating or staying calm, I write square boxes in my journal, and I have to cross it off, and I have to meditate a certain amount of times every week. And I do that so that I'm building that muscle. And
Mm.
so I think, and then I'll increase the time as well. But I think it's just a nice little kind of thing where I feel like, oh, I've checked it off, I've done it, I'm moving forward. And then I journal to track how it's making me feel so that I remember to keep doing it, even when maybe my mind was a bit crazy during the meditation.
Mm. Yeah, I like that. I like quantifying everything, just so you can, because I believe what you measure, you can manage. So that's great there. That's why I say to all the happy hustlers, they know, I measure myself in the 10 alignments every week. I figure out which one I'm lacking in, then I prioritize change accordingly. And so I like that you do that. That's a great tip. Let's talk also about entrepreneurship. I know it's a beast, that to actually get a profitable business going. What is a happy hustle hack for entrepreneurship that you can share?
I would say choose 1 to 3 things that you're going to do every day. Maybe like one thing I like to try to do. What's the one thing I'm going to do every day and
Yeah.
accomplish it? Or like the 3 things I'm going to do that week, and just focus on those. Put time on your calendar, first time in the day, to just do those things. And then it's cool if that's all you do. So you want to choose them wisely. But I think so often as an early entrepreneur, I would think I had to do all the things, and I put all the things on my calendar, and then I wouldn't do anything that was important. And
Yeah.
so I had to flip that. And I'm like, what's the one thing I could do today that's important, that I would go,
Mm.
that was a successful day. And then everything else, hopefully is still productive and worth it. But you at least started your day feeling like, yes, I did something worth
Yeah.
worth it.
Yeah, love that. I mean, I try to tackle that number one thing for me in the morning, so then I know the rest of the day it's already a win, and a great book on that topic is The One Thing by
Yeah.
Jay Papasan and Gary Keller. Definitely worth the read. If you haven't read The One Thing, read it. And speaking of books, I want to ask you, how the heck did you get this awesome Hay House deal? And tell us about your book.
Yes. So I'm going to answer both questions probably in reverse order, but my book
Okay.
is called Market Your Genius. And I'll tell you how I got the book deal. And I think a lot of people want like a checklist so that they can do the same things, but I'll talk to it a little bit from what had to shift for me first for the book deal to even align itself and for it to happen, because I had on my life list to write a book since I was a kid. I think I mentioned earlier, I wrote
Hmm.
poetry as a kid. I loved writing. I always wanted to write a book and publish a book. And I saw this Brennan Bouchard video that essentially said he should be able to look at your calendar and tell what your priorities are. And if it's not on, like if your goals aren't apparent by him looking at your calendar, they're never going to happen. He didn't really say
Mm-hmm.
it in those words, or even as harshly as it sounded in my mind, but that's the gist of what I took from this video.
Yeah,
And
I've
I
seen
went,
that.
yeah. I was like, oh man, I've been having on my to-do list or my New Year's resolution list every year, I'm gonna write a book. I'm gonna write a book before I graduate college. I'm gonna write a book before I turn
Yeah.
21. I'm gonna write a
Yep.
book, or 25 and 35, and it just like
Yep.
was never happening. Um, and so, long story short, I went all in and I started going, how the heck does somebody get a book deal? And the second that shifted in my mind, crazy stuff started happening. Like, I just kept meeting people who had book deals, and I would ask them questions. How did you get your book deal? And they were like, oh, you have to have an audience of a certain size. And you have to, like, I think it was like, you have to have like 50,000 people combined between your email list and your social media platforms and stuff like that. And then you got to get an agent and all this other stuff. And I said, Hey House is going to publish my book, and I'm not doing all that. And I just like decided, right? And then I signed up for a bunch of Hay House events, and I discovered that at the time, and I know they still do it in a certain capacity, but it's a bit different. But at the time, they were seeking, new diverse talent. And so what they do is they have a submission period where you could submit your book without having an agent, and they'll review, and they usually choose one person out of all the submissions
Mm.
to offer a book deal. And there are certain things that you have to do to even be able to submit. I know that that's changed a little bit, so people would have to look it up, but it was like I had to attend an event and I had to do like other stuff.
Mm.
But I attended the event already in my head knowing that I was getting this book deal. I ended up meeting the head of the editorial department at that event, which I'm sure normally doesn't happen to people, but in my mind, I was getting the book deal anyway. I I wish I was that confident throughout the whole process. I procrastinated and went in and out of confidence before the submission deadline, because you also have to submit by a certain time. And I had to submit a book proposal. I wrote the entire book proposal in 48 hours.
Whoa.
submitted it. Yeah, it was crazy. Never do that, folks. Submitted it, and then Reed Tracy, the CEO of Hay House, called me like a couple of weeks before my birthday and told me that they were taking my book. And it was really funny because I somehow applied for something else and had gotten a mentorship by Reed Tracy, who's the CEO of Hay House, for 6 months. So it was the
What?
last day of our mentorship, and then he called me back and said, "Yo," well, not in those words. That's
Yeah.
in my head. He's like, "Yo, Nikki, you got a book deal," but that's not at all what he said in that way. But that's how I heard it.
That's pretty epic. I mean, I love that you manifested it. So let me ask this. So okay, you obviously you planned, prepared, you were ready to seize the opportunity. You submitted your book proposal before you wrote a word of the manuscript. Is that correct?
That is correct. I
Okay.
wrote in the book proposal, you have to include 1 to 2 sample chapters. So I wrote that also in the
Okay.
48-hour period. But keep in mind, guys, I was an English major and I had to write a whole lot in a short period of time for years. And
Yeah.
so I
So
could
you're a
do it. I
pro.
don't recommend it, but
Yeah.
I was doable.
Now let me ask this because I know I'm sure a lot of people. I actually just had on the CEO of Greenleaf.
Yes.
They do a hybrid. Tanya Hall was a great interview. They do a hybrid publishing deal where they don't, basically take all the rights from the author, and that you retain the IP, and they do like a 35% split. Like the author retains 35%, they get some, the distributor gets some. Each deal is a little different, but she gave us the numbers behind it. Do you mind sharing some of the details of that deal and like what like a actual traditionally publishing deal like structure looks like?
Yes, I don't mind. I wish, though, I had my contract or something in front of me so that I wasn't completely lying, but I can give you the gist. I can tell
Yeah.
you how they work structurally, and then
Yeah.
my numbers aren't going to be exact by any means because I can't remember them in terms of like how much I get per book versus them and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
can tell you how it works. So, in traditional book deals, typically what happens is you are given an advance of a certain amount. That amount varies based off of your audience size, and essentially they're think of it as almost get a business investment where they're thinking, we're giving you this money in advance, but we're expecting to make it back through sales of your book. So we're hoping your book will, what people call earn out, like earning out your advance, where you sell enough books even with you getting a piece of the cut where the publisher makes back the advance that they gave you, right?
Yep.
Now, from everything I've read, most books don't earn out. However, or I shouldn't say most, I guess percentage wise. But
Yeah.
you also have to think there are some books where, they are giving multiple six-figure advances. And so earning out, look it up because it's not that they
Yeah.
don't make back the advance amount. It's a certain multiplier of the advance or something for it to earn out. I
Got
don't
it.
know the details, but you get an advance. And
Did you get in
then
advance?
I did. I got an advance. And then from outside of getting the advance, you also get the book publisher pays for the cover, all of the interior design and editor, all that jazz. So you think of it as with self-publishing, you're putting out all the costs to make the book happen. They're putting out all the costs to make the book happen, and they're giving you money so that you write the book.
Hmm.
But then on the back end, when the book sells, um, they get a percentage, or they get a certain amount of the profits, and that amount changes based off of after you hit certain book sale milestones. But I would say, like, real talk, I think I make like $1 to $2 maybe
Mm.
for the book being sold for it up until it sells like a certain amount of thousands of copies. And then
Hmm.
like I think it's like 5 or 10,000 copies, and then that number goes up a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like I think it's maybe 10%, and then it goes up to 12.5%, and then it goes up to 15% or something like that.
Yep.
That sounds about right, but I'm not entirely sure. So
Gotcha.
you make less per book. Um, but you have a traditional book deal that's
Yeah.
getting your book out in uh, stores, which may or may not be important to some people right now, but
Yeah.
that's the idea. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I think I appreciate you breaking it down. I'm curious, in terms of actually retaining your rights to the material, to the IP. Do you recall the details of that? Because I'm sure the happy hustlers out there, as well as myself, are interested in like, okay, hey, I'm a coach or a consultant. I have my framework in this shared in here and some of my proprietary
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
but I want to create it into a digital course, but my publishing deal says I can't, right? Or something like that. Like I know that stuff
Yeah.
happens. What was it for you?
So I think like your IP is your IP. Like you everything's in your name, it's copyrighted in your name. So I think the actual intellectual property, I think if anybody who has a traditional book deal, you should be able to create a course and all that stuff on it. In fact, they probably want you to, because that'll just mean you'll talk about the topic more and more people will probably buy the book. So I think of it as more of like they have almost, I think of it as like a licensing deal where they have the ability to um, print your intellectual property under exclusively under kind of their house. And then usually if you have a book deal, they get first right of refusal for your next book, unless you have some sort of deal or negotiation where, for example, I plan on self-publishing some books and then ideally just traditionally publishing other books with them. And so when a book is super, super niche and I'm not planning on, doing a mass marketing behind it, it's like a tactical, like, hey, people need this tactical book to get stuff done. They're probably going to go, yeah, you go publish it, go with the universe. That's cool. Just
Yeah.
like make sure it doesn't compete with anything that we're going to be
Yeah.
publishing from you, sort
Got
of a
it.
deal.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to hear your perspective from it all, and yeah, congratulations on getting it because I know like they're one of the top publishers in the world, right? So pretty cool. Awesome, Nikki. Well, I want to ask you a couple questions in the rapid fire round, and then we're going to wrap this bad boy up. But before we do, I know you have something special prepared for the happy hustlers out there, something very cool. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this master class that these happy hustlers get to be a part of if they so choose to take action, which I highly recommend you do.
Yes. So I have a Get More Dream Clients boot camp, and it's a masterclass that's really designed to help you come up with your marketing plan. So we talked a bit about the just like dating. There's a framework behind that, and it helps you figure out, okay, what am I specifically going to do to attract and get those dream clients and customers for my business that I am uniquely qualified to serve? And then I walk you through my framework on how you can have test and validate the plan that you come up with. And so it's a lot of fun. I tend to teach with analogies and make marketing and business as simple and easy and fun as possible. So if you can join, I'd love for you to check it out. You can get to it at freemarketingbootcamp.com and register for it.
Yeah, awesome, guys. Check that out. Nikki's going to be dropping tons of value. Freemarketingbootcamp.com. Now let's get into the rapid fire round, Nikki. This is basically where I just ask you random questions about whatever comes to mind, and you just answer honestly. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right. Favorite movie? Go.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I'm going to go with The Incredibles because that's the
Oh,
first thing that came to my mind. And you said
nice.
rapid.
Yep. Favorite food? Go.
uh, Pizza.
Favorite book?
Oh my gosh. This is Harry Potter.
What's your spirit animal?
Ooh, an elephant.
Oh, best business advice.
Uh, just keep swimming,
I love
which is
it.
also a Finding Nemo reference, but persistence.
Yes, it is. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
mm, um, Teleportation. I don't know if that's
Mm,
real. My family says if I were to have a superpower, it would be to freeze things because I'm always cold. So maybe I'd just lean into my strengths and I'd say I'd freeze things.
that's great. If you could have one billboard with the last message that you ever put out to the world, what would that billboard say?
Anybody can have a life they're madly in love with.
I like it. One word you wish to be synonymous with your name for the rest of your life.
Magic.
Oh, and three things you're most grateful for.
My family, my friends, and I was going to say just like the universe.
Hey, I like it. Awesome, Nikki. Where can people go to find out more about you, follow you online, read your new book coming out soon? Give us some links.
I literally, sorry guys, I felt like I was about to sneeze. I was like holding it. It's like
Pause.
holding the sneeze. Best ways to stay in contact with me. The first best way I shared, if you go to freemarketingbootcamp.com, you'll get access to me and some great knowledge there. I'm on Instagram. If you send me a DM on Instagram, I will respond unless your DM looks literally like spam. So like try to write something thoughtful, not like get
Yeah.
10,000 more followers.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
but yeah, I'm at Nikki Nash Official on Instagram. So that's probably another good place to connect with me. And listen to the Market Your Genius podcast.
What? Do it. That's a good one. The Market Your Genius podcast. Nikki Nash Official on IG and Clubhouse. I know you're big on there and dropping tons of value. And then you also, guys, I got to say, freemarketingbootcamp.com is the place to get that knowledge. Now, Nikki, this has been amazing. I just want to acknowledge you for sharing your love, your light, your wisdom with the Happy Hustlers. I really appreciate it. Now, final question. What does happy hustling mean to you?
Ooh, this is amazing. So, Happy Hustlin', which, as you know, I'm in love with your title, your brand, your message, your mission. But to me, it means making a big impact in the world without sacrificing you and your loved ones to do it.
Mm, love that. That's amazing. Mic drop. Nikki Nash, everyone. Thanks for listening and watching. Peace and love. We out.